What happens when Britain's most beloved sitcom tries to make the jump to the big screen? Don't panic! Don't panic! Dad's Army wasn't just a gentle comedy about bumbling Home Guard volunteers. It was a cinematic experiment that nearly collapsed under the weight of its own ambition, a production where real tensions mirrored the on-screen chaos, and a film that somehow captured lightning in a bottle while the cast quietly fell apart behind the scenes. From genuine wartime weapons that misfired to actors who refused to speak off-camera, here are 20 weird facts about Dad's Army. But there's one bonus fact so bizarre, it'll change how you watch the entire film. Let's fall in. Fact number 1. Arthur Lowe's dressing room had to be larger than John Le Mesurier's. The courteous on-screen partnership between Mainwaring and Wilson hit a real tension behind the scenes. Arthur Lowe insisted his dressing room be measurably larger than John Le Mesurier's, believing hierarchy off-screen preserved hierarchy on-screen. Production manager Harold Snowd literally measured both rooms before filming. Le Mesurier, amused, left his door open to show he didn't care, but Lowe frequently rechecked measurements throughout the shoot. To him, the distinction wasn't vanity, but a tool to protect the show's class dynamic. The result worked, though it created an atmosphere where minor issues quickly escalated into potential conflicts that threatened the cast's celebrated camaraderie. Fact number 2. The entire film was shot in just 6 weeks. Norman Cohen faced an impossible schedule. Columbia demanded a feature film within the BBC's strict 6-week series hiatus. Elaborate battle scenes, location work, and ensemble moments had to be completed at breakneck speed. Cast and crew endured 6-day weeks and 16-hour days, often filming scenes they'd barely rehearsed. James Beck collapsed from exhaustion in week 3 and spent a night in the hospital. Stand-ins covered his absence for 2 days. Several cast members were also performing in West End shows, racing between theater and set. The movie's leisurely tone hides a production pushed to its absolute physical and logistical limits. Fact number 3. Real Home Guard veterans served as extras. More than 40 genuine Home Guard veterans joined the production as extras, instantly correcting military details. Formations, insignia, and weapon handling were all wrong, they said, and they weren't shy about fixing them. Director Norman Cohen initially resisted, preferring exaggerated comedy, but writer Jimmy Perry, himself a veteran, overruled him. The veterans quickly became unofficial advisors, training cast members in authentic drill techniques. Ian Lavender even learned from a veteran named Albert how young recruits behaved under pressure. The realism triggered emotional responses. Some veterans cried during the church hall scenes, overwhelmed by memories the film had unexpectedly revived. Fact number 4. The church hall was a real Home Guard base. The Chalfont St. Peter Church Hall used in the film wasn't just a set. It was an actual Home Guard headquarters during WWII. Inside were original notice boards, gas mask crates, and faded defense maps. Production designer Bob Jones wanted replicas, but Norman Cohen insisted on using the real items. The local council initially refused, fearing damage to artifacts, until Cohen personally guaranteed their protection and assigned overnight guards. Cast members reported eerie experiences. John Laurie claimed he heard phantom marching, and Arthur Lowe refused to enter alone after dark. The location's lingering wartime atmosphere added emotional depth no studio set could replicate. Fact number 5. James Beck was seriously ill and told nobody. James Beck delivered Private Walker's energetic charisma while silently suffering from undiagnosed pancreatitis. The pain was so severe he sometimes vomited between takes, relying on carefully timed medication to stay camera-ready. His sweating and occasional pallor in certain scenes weren't performance, they were symptoms. During marching sequences, he struggled to keep pace and was strategically placed to conceal weakness. Castmates sensed something was wrong, but Beck deflected concern with humor. Filming wrapped in late 1970, his condition worsened afterward. He died in August 1973 at just 44, leaving colleagues devastated that they hadn't recognized how serious his suffering truly was. Fact number 6. Arnold Ridley did his own stunts at age 75. Arnold Ridley, who played the gentle Private Godfrey, carried severe wartime injuries, a head wound from the Somme and a damaged leg from WO2. Yet at 75, he insisted on performing his own stunts. When Godfrey needed to fall onto rough ground, Ridley completed the stunt himself, refusing padding or safety gear. The stunt coordinator protested, but Ridley dismissed the concerns. His hands naturally trembled from old injuries, so Norman Cohen incorporated it into the character. Insurance underwriters threatened shutdowns over his risks, so Cohen quietly filmed Ridley's stunt work early each morning before inspectors arrived, preserving both safety and authenticity. Fact number 7. Clive Dunn was younger than his elders. Although Lance Corporal Jones appeared elderly and eccentric, Clive Dunn was only 51, significantly younger than Arnold Ridley, 75, and John Laurie, 74. His convincing age makeup required 3 hours daily, during which Dunn sat perfectly still as latex and spirit gum transformed him. The discomfort limited his ability to eat, so he lived on soups and liquids. Dunn also physically contorted his posture throughout long shooting days, causing painful back strain. Off-camera, castmates instinctively treated him as elderly because he stayed in character's physicality. Dunn occasionally startled extras by abruptly straightening up and jogging away between takes. Fact number 8. Real submarine equipment was borrowed for the U-boat scenes. To achieve authentic submarine interiors, the production borrowed real U-boat equipment from the Imperial War Museum, including periscopes, gauges, and control panels. These priceless artifacts required museum curators on set to monitor every inch of filming. Actors were forbidden from touching certain items, forcing creative camera angles to fake interaction. At one point, Philip Maddock leaned too heavily on a valve wheel, partially breaking it, halting production while curators assessed damage. The repair nearly exhausted the contingency budget. Still, the actors' cautious movements around fragile equipment created real tension on screen, lending the U-boat scenes a surprising sense of authenticity and danger. Fact number 9. WWII-era. Ammunition was still on the beach. Norfolk's beaches were perfect visually but hazardous. The chosen location still contained live WWII ordnance, mines, shells, and buried ammunition. Royal engineers conducted sweeps but couldn't guarantee total safety. Arthur Lowe refused to step onto the sand until engineers issued written certificates outlining safe walking corridors, now archived at the BFI. During one take, a metal detector suddenly screamed. Evacuation revealed a rusted German mine just 15 feet from Ian Lavender's mark. Production lost a full day, and Norman Cohen kept the incident quiet to prevent a potential shutdown. The cast performed remaining scenes knowing hidden explosives might still lurk beneath them. Fact number 10. Bill Pertwee and Ian Lavender nearly drowned filming the river scene. The River Waveney crossing scene almost ended in tragedy. A concealed platform was meant to keep Bill Pertwee and Ian Lavender in shallow water, but heavy rains had raised the river level. During a second take, both stepped off the platform and immediately plunged into deep, fast-moving water. Their heavy wool uniforms became waterlogged, dragging them under. Lavender panicked and accidentally pulled Pertwee down with him. Safety divers reached them within seconds, but both were hypothermic and shaken. Production shut down for 3 days. When filming resumed, hidden flotation devices and safety lines were added, carefully concealed from the camera. Speaking of things you can't see in the final cut, if you're enjoying these behind-the-scenes revelations, go ahead and like and subscribe because we're about to reveal the fact that nearly destroyed the entire production. Fact number 11. Arthur Lowe and John Le Mesurier stopped speaking halfway through production. The film's most critical relationship imploded in week 4. During a particularly stressful night shoot, Arthur Lowe made a dismissive comment about John Le Mesurier's recent divorce. Le Mesurier, normally unflappable, finally snapped. Witnesses report he removed his costume, walked to his trailer, and didn't emerge for hours. The next morning, both actors arrived professionally but refused any off-camera interaction. They communicated through assistants, even when standing side by side. Director Norman Cohen was terrified this would destroy their on-screen chemistry, but something remarkable happened. The coldness actually enhanced their performances, adding genuine tension to Mainwaring and Wilson's relationship. Scenes where they're supposed to be irritated with each other crackle with real hostility. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Their best film work emerged from authentic animosity. They eventually reconciled during the series' later seasons, but for those 6 weeks, Britain's most beloved comedy duo genuinely couldn't stand each other. The experience was so painful that neither man ever spoke about it publicly. Fact number 12. The German army extras were mostly Spanish students studying in Britain. Finding convincing German soldiers in 1971, Britain presented unexpected challenges. The production needed dozens of young men willing to portray the enemy in a comedy that still honored British wartime suffering. Most British extras refused, feeling uncomfortable even in jest. The solution came through language schools. Dozens of Spanish students studying in London needed work and had no historical baggage about the war. They became the film's German army, though most spoke neither German nor English fluently. This created absurd on-set situations where the Spanish actors playing German soldiers received instructions in broken English from British assistant directors while memorizing phonetic German dialogue. Philip Maddock, fluent in German, spent hours coaching them on pronunciation, essentially directing an auxiliary acting school between his own scenes. Some students became so invested they researched Wehrmacht history and brought authentic details to their performances. One student's grandfather had fought against Germany in the Spanish Civil War, creating a strange historical loop where he now portrayed the forces his grandfather had opposed, while working for the nation his grandfather had considered an ally. Fact number 13. The film's budget ran out with 2 days of shooting remaining. Columbia Pictures had allocated $200,000 for the production, generous by British comedy standards, but inadequate for the film's actual scope. By the final week, they'd burned through everything. Weather delays, equipment problems, and the beach ordnance incident had depleted reserves. With 2 days of scheduled shooting remaining, the studio accountant arrived on set and announced they were done. Norman Cohen faced a choice: release an incomplete film or personally guarantee the final costs. He chose the latter, risking his home and savings. The cast, learning of this, volunteered to work unpaid for the final sessions. Arthur Lowe and John Le Mesurier, despite their feud, jointly contributed funds to cover catering costs. The crew worked with aging equipment and minimal lighting. That desperation shows in the film's final scenes, which have a raw, almost documentary quality distinct from the earlier polished sequences. Cohen eventually recouped his investment when the film became profitable, but for weeks he faced potential financial ruin for a comedy about bumbling volunteers. Fact number 14. The iconic "Don't Panic" van scene was completely improvised due to mechanical failure. One of the film's most memorable moments exists purely because of disaster. The script called for Jones's butcher van to arrive calmly, but the vintage vehicle's engine kept stalling. After 7 failed takes, Clive Dunn was frustrated and overheated in his prosthetics. On the 8th attempt, the van backfired violently, lurched forward, and nearly struck the camera. Dunn, startled but committed, accelerated erratically while improvising Jones's panic. His flailing arms and wild steering weren't performance, but genuine shock. Norman Cohen, recognizing magic when he saw it, kept the cameras rolling. The entire scene, now iconic, was essentially a documented accident. The van's unpredictable behavior forced authentic reactions from the other actors, who weren't sure if they needed to actually dodge the vehicle or trust the increasingly out-of-control scene. Arnold Ridley genuinely jumped aside, his old leg nearly giving out. That moment of real peril translated into comedy gold. Cohen later admitted he could never have directed what the malfunctioning van created spontaneously. Fact number 15. John Laurie believed the film would end his career and tried to leave. Private Fraser's pessimism reflected his actor's genuine feelings. John Laurie, an accomplished Shakespearean performer who'd worked with Laurence Olivier, viewed the film as artistic degradation. He'd reluctantly accepted the television series for income, but saw the feature film as confirmation he'd been reduced to broad comedy. 2 weeks into shooting, he attempted to quit, arguing his contract covered television only. Legal threats convinced him to stay, but his resentment permeates every scene. What reads as Fraser's magnificent doom-mongering was partially Laurie's actual contempt for the material. He'd refused to rehearse, performing scenes with minimum preparation while muttering about wasted potential. Fellow cast members found him difficult but couldn't deny his instincts were often correct about improving scenes. Arthur Lowe, intimidated by Laurie's theatrical credentials, rarely challenged him. Years later, as the show became a cultural institution, Laurie softened, admitting the film had brought joy to millions. But during production, his misery was absolute and visible to everyone. Fact number 16. The churchyard memorial scene made several cast members break down crying. The film's surprisingly emotional conclusion wasn't originally scripted with such weight. When the platoon gathers at the war memorial, the scene was meant to be brief and ceremonial, but something shifted during filming. Arnold, Ridley, standing before prop names of fallen soldiers, began genuinely weeping. His war injuries, his lost friends from the Somme, the entire weight of his experience overwhelmed him. The other actors, watching Ridley's authentic grief, found themselves unable to maintain professional distance. John Laurie, tears streaming down his face, gripped Ridley's shoulder. Even Arthur Lowe, normally demanding multiple takes, quietly signaled to continue. Norman Cohen let the camera roll for nearly 8 minutes, though only 2 appear in the final film. That raw footage remains in archives, too powerful for a comedy, but too precious to destroy. The scene transformed the film's meaning, reminding audiences these silly volunteers represented real men who'd faced actual terror. Critics who dismissed the film as frivolous cited this scene as evidence of unexpected depth. Fact number 17. The film was banned in Germany until 1985 due to its portrayal of German soldiers. While Britain embraced the film immediately, it created international diplomatic complications. German cultural authorities refused distribution, arguing the film mocked German forces in ways that violated post-war reconciliation agreements. The ban wasn't official censorship, but rather distributor reluctance after governmental pressure. For 14 years, Dad's Army was essentially invisible in Germany. This changed unexpectedly in 1985 when a new generation of German programmers, unfamiliar with wartime sensitivities, discovered the film and recognized its actually gentle satire. They appreciated that the comedy targeted British incompetence rather than German villainy, with Philip Maddock's U-boat captain portrayed as competent and honorable. The delayed German release became a minor cultural event, with media analyzing why such harmless comedy had been controversial. German audiences, expecting propaganda, found instead a film that laughed at war's absurdity rather than enemy characteristics. The ban's lifting symbolized shifting European relationships, though some older Germans still found the humor uncomfortable, unable to separate comedy from memory. Fact number 18. Columbia. Pictures wanted to cut 20 minutes and remove all war memorial scenes. Studio executives watching early cuts panicked about the film's tone. They'd expected pure farce and instead received something complicated by genuine pathos. Columbia's head of British operations demanded extensive cuts, specifically targeting anything that wasn't obvious comedy. The war memorial scene was marked for complete removal, deemed too serious for a comedy audience. Norman Cohen refused, threatening to remove his name from the film. The standoff escalated to Columbia's Los Angeles headquarters, where executives who'd never seen the television series made decisions about British cultural product they didn't understand. Arthur Lowe, learning of the dispute, leveraged his considerable British celebrity by threatening press conferences about American studios destroying British art. The gambit worked. Columbia backed down but reduced marketing budget in retaliation, nearly guaranteeing box office failure. The film succeeded anyway, largely through word of mouth, proving Cohen's instincts correct. Those 20 minutes Columbia wanted removed are now considered the film's emotional core, transforming simple comedy into something genuinely moving. Fact number 19. Several props were stolen during production and still haven't been recovered. The film's vintage military equipment attracted unexpected attention. Multiple items vanished from supposedly secure locations, including Captain Mainwaring's swagger stick, several authentic Home Guard helmets, and most bizarrely, an entire Lewis gun. Deactivated. Production security suspected a military memorabilia collector with inside access, possibly one of the veteran extras. Police investigated, but recovered nothing. The thefts created continuity nightmares, forcing the props department to manufacture quick replacements that don't quite match across scenes. Watch carefully, and you'll notice Captain Mainwaring's stick changes length and handle design between sequences. The Lewis gun's disappearance was particularly problematic as it belonged to the Imperial War Museum, creating legal complications that lasted months. Insurance covered the value, but not the historical significance. Decades later, pieces occasionally surface in collector auctions, identified by specific markings the props department had added. Whenever one appears, the British Film Institute attempts acquisition, slowly reassembling the film's material history. The swagger stick remains missing, probably sitting in someone's attic, its owner unaware of its cinematic provenance. Fact number 20. The film's box office. Success directly saved the television series from cancellation. Despite studio interference and production disasters, Dad's Army became one of 1971's most profitable British films, earning over $1.2 million domestically. This unexpected success changed everything. BBC executives who'd been considering ending the television series after the 6th season due to rising costs and declining ratings suddenly recognized they possessed a valuable property. The film's profits and renewed public enthusiasm guaranteed 3 more television seasons and eventual status as Britain's most repeated sitcom. Without the film's financial vindication, Dad's Army would have ended in 1971 with most of its classic episodes unproduced. The cast, aware of this near cancellation, always credited the film's success as directly responsible for the show's longevity and legacy. Norman Cohen's decision to mortgage his home for those final 2 shooting days literally saved a British cultural institution. Those financial risks enabled not just completing the film, but ensuring the series continued, producing dozens more episodes that defined British comedy. The film wasn't just successful, it was historically necessary. Bonus fact: Arthur Lowe kept his Captain Mainwaring uniform and was buried wearing it. The most touching and bizarre detail remained hidden until Arthur Lowe's death in 1982. Despite his demanding behavior during production, Lowe had formed a profound attachment to his character. He kept his Captain Mainwaring uniform from the film, storing it carefully at his home. When he died suddenly of a heart attack while touring in a play, his wife Joan revealed his long-standing request. He wanted to be buried wearing Captain Mainwaring's uniform from the 1971 film. The request wasn't played for laughs, but reflected genuine connection. Lowe had spent over a decade inhabiting Mainwaring's pompous dignity, and somewhere beneath the artistic frustrations, he'd grown to love the character's essential decency. Friends who attended the funeral reported it was both absurd and profoundly moving, seeing Lowe laid to rest in full Home Guard regalia, forever remaining the captain of his bumbling platoon. Dad's Army wasn't supposed to be important. It was a sitcom cash grab, a quick film between television seasons, shot in impossible conditions by a cast partially at war with each other and a director gambling his financial future. Yet somehow, through mechanical failures, genuine danger, authentic grief, and sheer determined craft, it became something more. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who loves British comedy. Because the real lesson of Dad's Army isn't that bumbling volunteers can save Britain. It's that sometimes the most beautiful things emerge from chaos, that art survives despite circumstances, and that even the smallest productions can create work that endures. Don't panic. Just remember,